क्या आप आईएएस की तैयारी कर रहे हैं और कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स को 2.5 लाख तक की फीस नहीं पे करना चाहते? अगर हाँ, तो 22,500 रुपए में घर बैठ के StudyIQ के पेनड्राइव कोर्स के साथ आप आईएएस की तैयारी कर सकते हैं। आज ही विजिट करें StudyIQ.com।
Very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Pavani. I hope you are doing good. Let's have a positive start. There was never a night or a problem that could defeat sunrise or hope. That means there is nothing out there in the world that can stop you as far as you are ready to rise up all the time, every time. With this, dear friends, the first editorial that we have is a welcome retreat. It is about central government's decision to quietly withdraw this Financial Resolution and Deposit Insurance Bill 2017. Now, why the government of India has decided to withdraw this particular bill, and the reason is that because of its controversial clause called bail-in. Now, what bail-in is all about, we'll go through it in detail, but before that, let me help you with the core business of a bank. The core business of a bank is to give out loans, right, and to accept your deposits. And of course, when we park our money in a bank as a deposit, then we earn a little bit of interest, isn't it, from this deposits. And the same way, bank will charge you a little bit of interest if you are taking loan from a bank. So whatever the difference is, that is, generally speaking, profit for this particular bank. So this is a core duty or the core business of a bank. Now, the question is, why do we deposit our money? Why do we give our money and deposit our money in a bank? Of course, it is very simple to understand, because if we keep this money with us at our home, then there are high chances, its safety will be compromised. So we can safely argue that safety is one of the most important reason why people deposit their money in a bank, isn't it? So, and there is a sort of a surety as well. If it is a government bank, then you have this trust that your money will never be taken away from you. And so that's what we expect from a bank. And of course, as far as loans are concerned, or loan is concerned, you know it very well how it works. And of course, we have talked about high interest rate, and at that point of time, we have discussed about loans. So I'm not going into detail. In fact, let me give you a brief line. The role of blood in our body, it should be in a liquid form, isn't it? In the same way, in any economy, you want to see this loans or the money, it should be in a liquid form. It should not be too much difficult for a business or for any person to have access to loan, and it should not be that easy as well. So there should be a fine balance as far as loans are concerned. So loans are very important. Banks play a very important role as far as economy of a country is concerned. Now, to understand this bail-in, first of all, let me throw some light on bail out. We say this thing that when someone is behind the bars, then we say that we need to bail out that person. That person is behind the bars. So that means that person is in a sort of trouble. What happened back in 2007-8, this banks of Western banks, right, particularly USA, UK and other European banks, let's stick ourselves with USA only. So banks of USA, right, they gave out loans and mortgages and other things, and the money that was pumped out by them was too much, and because of some bad decisions, eventually the bank came to know that most of the money that it has given out is NPA, that is non-performing asset. So banks were running out of money, they were not having any money, and as you know that the role of finance, just like blood in our body, it's the same way. Liquidity is very important in any economy. So the government of USA decided that banks are in red. That means banks are not doing that well. Banks don't have capital, they don't have money to give back to the people who have deposited their money, and they don't have enough money to give it out as a loan as well. So government decided that government will pump in, government will basically bail out, government will inject some money, it will give some money to these banks so that they can be bailed out, their problems can be sorted out, and then everything will be hopefully all right. So this is what bailout is all about. So what we find here is that government is injecting money in a bank. So this is called bailout. But when we say bail in, right, that means banks will use your money. See, your money is with bank, this deposits that we are talking about, that we were talking about, this one, right, this deposits. This is your money, you have given it to a bank. Just imagine if bank takes a wrong decision, now bank is out of money, and then bank will tell you that sorry, we have lost your money because we made some bad decisions. Now you don't have anything with us, we don't owe you anything at all, right? Your balance is zero. Sorry about that. Just imagine this scenario. That's what this bail-in was trying to do. Government came out with many different versions of this thing, but eventually, people were not happy with it. So finally, government decided that it is going to drop this financial resolution and deposit insurance bill. I hope this thing is clear to you. We have understood two concepts, bail-in and bail-out. Again, very briefly, in a nutshell, when government is injecting money, that is called bail-out. When your deposits are used by a bank, right, to sort out their problems, then that is called bail-in. So what we need is, rather than this bail-in sort of clause, we need to create this environment in which we find minimum chances of this bankruptcy and NPAs, right? It is part and parcel of business. You will find a little bit of NPAs. Everyone faces it, but too much of it is, of course, not acceptable at all. Apart from that, you have this Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, set up in 1960s, and as per this DICGC, right, at least 1 lakh rupee deposits are insured. That means we are talking about 60s, at that point of time, 1 lakh rupee was a big thing. But in today's world, 1 lakh is a very small amount. So imagine if you have 15 lakh rupees in your bank, and if this bail-in sort of thing is, or if application of this bail-in, you will just get 1 lakh rupees only. Your 14 lakhs will be gone. So this is something that is again not acceptable. Government needs to work on this thing, because government was supposed to review this 1 lakh rupee back in 1993. Now we are living in 2018, so government needs to take a proper decision. They should evaluate the value of money, and I'm sure it should be somewhere around 10 lakh or 15 lakh rupees at least. With this, dear friends, the second item that we have is coming from Subramaniam Swamy. I'm sure you all are aware about him. He is a very famous leader, as well as he is, I think, lawyer of Supreme Court too. He was law minister of our country. He is a BJP man, but he's a very, you can say, a different person. He will not refrain from attacking BJP leaders as well. Recently, there was when I say recently, I'm talking about some 6-7 months ago. He came out with a statement against finance minister. So anyways, here you will find it, because it is written by a BJP person, I think he is from RSS as well. So a little bit of political touch will be there. But what I have done here, I have picked up all those things that are essential for you guys, for your examination, and so that you can get a sort of unbiased, as well as impartial view on this particular item. Now, this article is in response to an article that we discussed a couple of days ago, the essentiality of mosques, on 7th of August 2018. This was published in the Hindu newspaper, and it was talking about Article 25 and 26. We have talked about it, so I'm not going into it. But the thing is that we have to keep this thing in our mind, and this is very right, that our fundamental rights in our constitution are not absolute. That means that there are some reasonable restrictions on fundamental rights, like freedom of expression. I have all the right, you have all the right to speak what you like, right, as far as your speech is not defaming someone, it is not abusive. If your speech is abusive, if you are saying anything you like, if you are saying too many negative things, when I say negative, I'm talking about abusive words and things like that, then those sort of things are not part of your fundamental rights. You cannot say that I have fundamental right of expression, I can say whatever I like. No, that whatever is not allowed. It needs to be reasonable. So our fundamental rights in our constitution are not absolute. This is a very important point for you to understand. I'm sure you'll go through this polity and constitution and then you'll find out more about it. There are many other examples, but for now it's more than enough. Now, back in 1994, Supreme Court directed Allahabad High Court to verify whether this Babri Masjid was a structure that was constructed by invaders. So Allahabad High Court appointed two gentlemen. One is Bibi Lal and KK Muhammad, both from ASI, and they went through this whole thing. They did a thorough investigation and they came out with this conclusion that this Babri Masjid was built on a temple. Earlier on, there was a temple in this complex. This was a stand taken by Bibi Lal and KK Muhammad. So this was accepted by High Court, Allahabad High Court, and Allahabad High Court gave this verdict back in 2010 about this whole property, or you can say this particular piece of land or this location, that there was a temple, and after that a mosque was created by Babur or his commander. Here we have to keep in mind that government or Supreme Court, I beg your pardon, Supreme Court is going through this thing. A civil case is going on, and this is about this disputed Ayodhya site, right? Whether it belongs to party A or whether it belongs to party B. So this is a thing on which Supreme Court is looking at. So there is no point for us to comment on this thing. And the second thing is, a second petition has been filed by Subramaniam Swamy himself. He says that his fundamental rights to pray at a site where Ram was born, he is not being allowed to do that. So that's what these are the two you can say petitions, two sets of petitions being considered by Supreme Court at present. So I hope things are a bit clear to you, right? You will not find a question asking you to take a stand on Babri Masjid, but it's a very important topic. Fundamental rights are there, then our society, fraternity. There are so many things that are associated with this particular case. So have a good grip on this thing, and you will find, you have to learn this thing as well, that you'll find few people, they will have negative views against Muslims. There will be few people, they will have negative views against Hindus, right? But remember, you are preparing for competitive exams, and particularly if you are preparing for civil services examination. So you have to think like a civil servant, right? Your duty is for the people of this country. Your loyalty should be towards the constitution. And what constitution is saying that everyone is equal, isn't it, in our country? So there is no point of being biased or being partial with any community. You should observe things from a distance. So this will give you a good view. I have two GK things for you guys that I found in this article, general knowledge to be more precise. Sri Ram was named poet. Ram was named by poet Muhammad Iqbal as Imam-e-Hind. So remember this thing, just in case if you find a MCQ like Imam-e-Hind was a title or a name that was given by Muhammad Iqbal to which character or which god, for example, they can ask you Krishna and Kans and Ram and Hanuman, for example. And then you have Babri Masjid was put up by Babur's commander Mir Baqi in 1528. So these are two important general knowledge items that you should keep in your mind. Now, so we have done with this one and this one. So let me tell you, this one is about cricket. So we are completely rejecting this one. This one is about trafficking. Anti-trafficking bill, can it address trafficking? Very simple, right? We find small kids working in domestic environment. We find kids working on this street food carts and other places, right? We find kids working in firecrackers and other places. So who are these kids? Don't you think they are also part of this trafficking. They're bonded labor, forced labor, child slavery. All these things are part of this trafficking. And what happens nowadays, right? We are completely ignorant about this thing. When we find this a small child working in our next door house, then we hardly observe, because we have never thought about this thing. So we can bring the most stringent punishments, we can bring the most stringent bill or law, but as far as this demand, as I have said earlier on as well, if you change demand, then only you can work on supply. Of course, you have to work on both things, but demand is a very important thing. If people are demanding drugs, right, if people are demanding alcohol in dry states, right, then you will find alcohol in dry states. Simple as that. So it's up to us whether if we give up eating at those places where they are promoting this child slavery, or where small kids are washing dishes and things like that, then of course businesses as well, they will realize that this is something that society is not accepting. So we have to keep this thing in mind. Now this article here, it's about education. I'm not going to spend too much time after this one, because it's very simple. See, a case was filed in High Court, Karnataka High Court, and it was about this a particular exam, right? We are not going into too much facts and figures here, but if I write 7 like this way or this way, it's it doesn't make any difference, isn't it? In our routine life, in our normal life, we write 7, just a 7, isn't it? We don't write 7 like this way. We don't put a point here. So a student said that as per this examination, those students who have opted for, who have wrote this way, they should be given bit extra mark, or they should be considered bit up at a higher level compared to all those students who have not followed instructions and things like that. So High Court said yes to it, and then later on High Court said that wait a minute, this is not acceptable, everyone is equal and things like that. So our main concern here is education, right? It's not this case or details associated with this case. Main thing is education. What is the role of education? Simple as that. It should open your doors, right? It should make you more curious. It should enhance your understanding. And if you go through this notification of civil services examinations, then you will find a very interesting paragraph where it clearly says, I don't have exact words, but I have the gist of that paragraph, that how much you know, how much information you have collected is not important at all, right? It's not important that you have dates of Ashoka's birthday and etc., all this GK thing. It's not that important. What is important for civil services examination, particularly your mains examination, is your understanding. That's the thing. And it's looking very difficult, isn't it? There are so many students out there, right? They are not able to comprehend this paragraph, right? All you need is your understanding, right? Whatever you are studying and reading, your understanding is the most important thing, and you will find this thing been said by so many successful candidates as well. Moving on to another item, this is about perils of historical amnesia. It's about Article 35A. Article 35A was introduced back in 1954 as a presidential order. At present, Supreme Court is going through this thing, and this article was introduced back in May 1954 as a part of larger presidential order package. It was not that just Article 35A was introduced. There were several items that were introduced in the Constitution. Now, you know that there are critics out there. They have said that Jammu and Kashmir, should be, this Article 35A. There are people out there who are criticizing this Article 35A, and they are saying that JNK means that the article affords JNK undue powers, particularly by preventing non-state residents to own land in the state. Now, this is something that this decision can be taken by a state legislature of Jammu and Kashmir only. There is a very, you can say, unique relationship between of course, I will not say India and Jammu and Kashmir, because Jammu and Kashmir is of course part of India. But I'll give you one example. Bihar, right? It will be very easy for you to understand in this way. You cannot, means there cannot be any second opinion about it. Bihar is part of our country. It's a state, isn't it? It's a full state. What about Bhutan? We have a special relationship with Bhutan. If anything goes wrong with Bhutan, if as far as defense is concerned, right, we are duty bound. We have this friendship clause with Bhutan that we will protect them. But Bhutan is not a state of our nation. But when it comes to Kashmir, you can say it is between Bihar and Bhutan. The reason why it is between Bihar and Bhutan, it is part of our country, but it's not like Bihar. You know what I mean? The way we deal with Bihar is a bit different. Bihar does not have its own different flag. Kashmir, they have their own flag. They have their own constitution, right? They have their own of course, assembly is there. But if you want to introduce anything in J&K, then a green signal from their legislative assembly is a must, right? And so later on, what happened that India's fundamental rights and directive principles were made applicable on J&K. Then states' finances were integrated, and then we also saw extension of Supreme Court's jurisdiction over Jammu and Kashmir. Now, instrument of accession that was signed by Maharaja Hari Singh in 1947, which brought the state into Union of India, and it gave Delhi control of defense, foreign policy and communications of Jammu and Kashmir. One thing that we have to understand here, that this Article 35A, when it was when this presidential order was issued, before that, right, before that, this assembly of this constituent assembly of this state, it gave its green signal to this 35A. So that means that powers or these things are not taken by India, right? They can be given by Kashmir. So there is a difference here. You have to understand. We cannot, as a country, India, right? We cannot say that we have this particular state and we cannot take away this thing and that thing. It should come from Kashmir, because we have a very interesting history with Kashmir. This instrument of accession. There are other things, but we don't have that much time to go through it. But I'm sure we all are a little bit aware about this whole issue here. So Sheikh Abdullah, he was a prime minister over there, and I'm talking about the reason I'm using prime minister, because we are talking about after independence era, right? Before this 54s, and before, in fact, our constitution was adopted, right? We adopted our constitution. It came into effect in 1950 January, and after that we started this consultation process. So Delhi Agreement was actually signed, but before that, in 52, Jawaharlal Nehru and his very good friend Mr. Abdullah, they had interacted with each other. Meetings took place and things like that. But later on, in 53, Nehru faced this Hindu right wings were demanding integration of Kashmir, and so this was a thing. And there was also an international demand from international community that there should be a voting in Jammu and Kashmir, so people can decide. And this was something that India was not at all happy about, because of this instrument of accession was already signed back in 1947. So we have together with Jammu, means these two gentlemen here, Jawaharlal Nehru and Abdullah, together they sorted out this thing was dropped. This idea of voting was dropped. But in 53, right, Abdullah was arrested, and Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad, he took his place, Abdullah's place, and he was more inclined to integrate J&K with India. And after that, we saw this Article 35A coming in. So that's a brief history about Delhi Agreement as well as this 35A. I'm sure you all will go through this article, and I will reckon you guys to read them as well. Means I do find these questions too. People do ask me that is it necessary for us to read newspaper after going through this video analysis. Yes, it is absolutely important for you guys to read it, right? You have to read newspapers, right? I'm not saying that you have to read each and every item that is printed on it, but that's what we are here for, isn't it? What you find over here is like, say, this item here, you find it on the front page. Now, I have given you a small gist here that opposition loses the battle for RS deputy chairman. Now it's on you. You have to read this whole article, right? It's a news item, of course. You have to go through this item. Supreme Court alters Lodha's BCCI proposal. So a Lodha committee, Lodha panel was set up by Supreme Court to sort out this issue issues that were going on in this BCCI, and this Lodha committee came out with many recommendations that one state, one vote, but this is something that is not accepted by Supreme Court, because we have states like Maharashtra and Gujarat where you have multiple cricket boards, so they will lose their right to vote. So Supreme Court has said that one state, one vote of this recommendation of Lodha committee is not acceptable to it. So again, you have to go through this article here. 27 resorts in Nilgiri's Jumbo Path to be shut in 48 hours. This is a deadline that is given by Supreme Court. If you are interested to know more about it regarding this human and animal conflict, and particularly road accidents and things like that, then a very dear colleague of mine, Saurav Pandey, came out with a lecture yesterday. It is available on our YouTube channel. Do check it out. It is about this Bandipur National Park and this traffic issue that is going on. It will give you a good insight about this thing. Now, will continue oil trade with India has been said by Venezuela. Make sure you locate this country in your Atlas book. US sanctions are going on Venezuela for a very long period of time. It has crippled its economy, but then as well it has said that it is going to increase its production and it is going to supply oil to India, which is good for us. Of course, USA hits Russia with new sanctions as something that is very common between these two countries. At least 29 children killed in strike on Yemen bus. Very sad news. And here you have a Space Force, right? USA is going ahead with building a space force, so just in case if we have in future space wars, then USA will be a dominant force here. Very important news item from finance world. It's about RCEP, RCEP, that is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Now, the 4 top ministers of our country, they are looking into this particular item, whether we should become part of this 16 Asia Pacific, whether we should allow this other 15 member countries to flood our market. Because what they want, these member countries are asking us to eliminate 90% of items on which we have some sort of duties. They want us to eliminate all these things. So the big problem for us is our markets can be flooded with Chinese products and other countries' products. So we are a bit thinking about it. Let's wait and watch, but it's a very important item. We were talking about tax base, compliance and tax base. So here you find something similar to it. Our finance minister has said that if revenue collection increases, if it goes up, if compliance increases, and if economy formalizes more, then there are chances that more items will be shifted from higher slab to lower slab. So far, 400 goods and 68 service are reduced since the rollout of GST. Commerce Department makes case for e-commerce. Commerce Department feels a clear policy will help it put forth its case matter. It has also said that this foreign companies, foreign companies as well as countries, right? They are pressurizing India to join WTO and RCEP negotiation on e-commerce. We are a bit skeptical about it at present as far as judges appointment is concerned, High Court judges appointment is concerned. Then things are getting there slowly. We are doing a little bit good here, which is not bad, right? As you can see, particularly after 2016, 17, 18 so far, we have recruited many judges. So it's a good thing. That's what we want. European Union and India can sign a free trade agreement, but there are some sticking points. EU wants us to to open doors for their cars and for their whiskies and wines. And we are looking for a open door for our nurses, for our people. Basically, they should be able to get easy visa in European countries. This is an advertisement of World Biofuel Day, right? So make sure you go through all these points here. I found it in today's The Hindu newspaper. This is your answer here. Again, I have to ask this question here that see, first of all, this map-based questions, I have observed that many of you students are not taking active part in it. I want you guys to take active part in it. If you observe Hindi video, then you will find that students are a bit active. Hindi students are a bit active. So we want a sort of healthy competition, right? I'm not saying that they are good and you are bad, or you are good and they are bad. Not at all. You all are unique for me, but I want you guys to really be more interactive and take part in this quiz and questions, right? Let's make it more interactive. And these are your new questions. Up to 50% discount on our pen drive and tablet courses till 16th August. Make sure you make the most out of it. That's everything in today's discussion. God bless you all. Enjoy your day. Jai Hind.